Ambassador Thesson pressed her four-fingered hand against the cold metal wall as the ship shook again. The emergency lights painted everything in harsh red. Somewhere behind her, a child was crying. Somewhere ahead, the bridge crew was shouting orders that would not save them. The Mallory diplomat had served the Galactic Concord for 60 years. She had negotiated peace between warring empires. She had stood in chambers where the fate of entire worlds was decided with a single vote. She had seen much in her long life. She had never seen anything like this. The diplomatic convoy had been traveling through safe space. 12 species were represented aboard the flagship alone. 2,000 passengers, families, children, scholars returning from a cultural exchange. All of them under the protection of the Galactic Concord itself. That protection had meant nothing when the Scythe Collective appeared. The pirates had dropped out of hyperspace like wolves surrounding a wounded animal. 32 ships against 4 escorts. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. Now the escorts were debris floating in the void, and the flagship drifted helpless with its engines crippled and its communications jammed. Thesson made her way to the bridge, pushing through crowds of terrified passengers. The ship's captain, a Vorthian with scales that had turned pale with stress, looked up as she entered. "Ambassador," he said, "I am sorry. I have failed you." "What is our situation?" Thesson asked. She kept her voice calm. Panic would help no one. "Engines at 12%, weapons destroyed, communications blocked by their jamming field. The nearest Concord patrol is 6 days away, and they have no way to know we need help." The captain's voice broke. "They are toying with us. They announced they will begin taking passengers in 4 hours. They mentioned the flesh markets of the outer rim." Thesson felt cold spread through her body. The flesh markets. She had heard stories. Everyone had heard stories. Slaves sold to the highest bidder. Families separated forever. Fates worse than death for those considered attractive to certain species. "There must be something we can do," she said. "There is one option." The captain gestured to his navigation officer, a young Talari female who looked like she had been weeping. "Tell the ambassador what you told me." The navigator swallowed hard. "There is a region nearby, the Veyrath exclusion zone. If we divert all remaining power to the jump drive, we could reach it in a single jump." Thesson stared at her. "The exclusion zone? That sector was declared forbidden 300 years ago. The radiation alone would kill us within hours. The gravitational anomalies would tear the ship apart." "Yes, Ambassador." The navigator could not meet her eyes. "But it would be quick, painless compared to the alternative." The bridge fell silent. Through the view screen, Thesson could see the Scythe ships circling like predators. They were in no hurry. They knew their prey had nowhere to go. 4 hours. In 4 hours, the pirates would board them. They would separate the passengers by species, by age, by appearance. The young and the beautiful would go to the flesh markets. The strong would go to labor camps. The old and the sick would simply be killed because they had no value. 2,000 people, families, children. Thesson closed her eyes and made the hardest decision of her life. "Do it," she said. "Jump to the exclusion zone." The captain stared at her. "Ambassador, the zone is lethal. No one survives there. The Concord banned all travel for good reason." "The Concord is 6 days away, Captain. The pirates are here now." Thesson looked at the view screen, at the circling ships full of slavers who saw her passengers as nothing more than merchandise. "I would rather die free than live as someone's property. I would rather give my people a quick death than watch them be dragged away in chains." She turned to face the passengers gathered at the bridge entrance. Mallory, Vorthians, Talari, humans. A dozen species, all watching her with fear in their eyes. "This is your choice as well," Thesson said. "I will not force this on anyone. If you wish to take your chances with the pirates, I will not judge you. But I believe death with dignity is better than slavery without hope." No one moved, no one spoke. Then a human woman stepped forward. She was holding a small child in her arms, a boy no older than 5 years. "Jump," the woman said. "Whatever is in that zone, it cannot be worse than what waits for us here." One by one, the others nodded, even those who wept, even those who trembled with fear. Every single one of them chose death over chains. The captain straightened his shoulders. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. "Navigation, plot the jump. Engineering, divert all power to the drive. We jump in 3 minutes. The ship hummed as power flooded the jump drive. Through the view screen, Thesson saw the pirate ships react. They had detected the power surge. They knew the convoy was trying to escape. But they were too late. The flagship jumped. Thesson had experienced hyperspace travel many times. It was usually smooth like sliding through silk. This jump was different. The ship screamed around them. Metal groaned and twisted. The lights flickered and died completely for a long, terrible moment. Then they emerged. Thesson opened her eyes, surprised to find she was still alive. The bridge was intact. The passengers were shaken but unharmed. Through the view screen, she saw something impossible. Stars. Normal, stable stars burning in the darkness. Planets. 3 of them, orbiting peacefully around a yellow sun. And directly ahead, so large it blocked out half the sky, a ship. It was not a Concorde ship. The design was wrong. The hull was dark gray, almost black, covered in angles and surfaces that seemed designed to drink in light rather than reflect it. It was enormous, easily 5 times the size of any vessel Thesson had ever seen. "What is that?" the captain whispered. The navigation officer was staring at her instruments with wide eyes. "Captain, I am reading no radiation, no gravitational anomalies. This space is completely stable. The exclusion zone is not dangerous at all." But the Concorde said the Concorde was wrong, or they lied. The officer's voice shook. "Sir, that ship. I am reading its identification beacon. It is registered to the United Earth Navy." Thesson felt her legs weaken. Humanity? Humanity had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago. They were a minor species, still learning their place, still building their first proper starships. They did not have vessels like this. They could not have vessels like this. The massive ship powered up. Running lights flickered to life along its hull, revealing weapon emplacements that seemed to go on forever. Sensor beams washed over the crippled convoy like invisible hands checking for injuries. A communication signal cut through the static. A human voice, female, calm and professional. "Concorde vessel, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Prometheus. You have entered restricted space. Please state the nature of your emergency." The captain looked at Thesson. She nodded and stepped forward to respond. "Captain Vasquez, this is Ambassador Thesson of the Galactic Concorde. We are a diplomatic convoy carrying 2,000 passengers. We were attacked by Scythe collective raiders. Our escorts are destroyed. Our engines are crippled. The pirates are pursuing us and will arrive shortly. We jumped here in desperation, expecting to die." She paused, struggling to maintain her composure. "We did not expect to find anyone here. We did not expect to find a human warship. We do not understand what is happening." There was a moment of silence. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again, and her voice was warm with something that sounded almost like approval. "Ambassador, you jumped into unknown space rather than surrender to slavers. That took courage. The Prometheus is moving to intercept the pirates. I need you to get your passengers to the interior compartments and away from the hull. Things are about to get rough." "Captain, you cannot be serious. The Scythe Collective has over 30 ships. You are one vessel against a fleet. You will be destroyed." "With respect, Ambassador, that is not your concern. Your concern is keeping your people safe." A pause. "We did not come all this way to watch innocent people get dragged off to flesh markets. Not while we have breath in our bodies and weapons in our hands." The communication ended. The Prometheus began to move, placing itself between the convoy and the point where the pirates would emerge from hyperspace. Thesson watched the massive human ship position itself for battle. She thought about everything she knew about humanity, a young species, inexperienced, weak by galactic standards. Everyone said so. Everyone believed it, but no one had ever seen them fight. Behind her, the human woman with the child spoke softly. "They came for us. No one ever comes for us." The child in her arms looked up at the warship that now stood as their only shield against the darkness. "Mommy," he said, "are the humans going to help us?" Before his mother could answer, space tore open as 32 Scythe collective vessels dropped out of hyperspace. They emerged in attack formation, weapons already charging, ready to claim their prey. Instead, they found the Prometheus waiting for them, alone, unafraid. And for the first time in 3 centuries of terror, the hunters became the hunted. The Scythe Collective commander was a Kreth named Vorath. He had earned his position through 30 years of violence. He had raided hundreds of ships. He had sent thousands of captives to the flesh markets. He had killed anyone who stood in his way without hesitation or remorse. He feared nothing in the galaxy. When his fleet emerged from hyperspace and found a single ship blocking their path to the convoy, he laughed. "What is this?" he asked his sensor officer. "One ship? They sent one ship to stop us?" The officer studied her instruments. "It appears to be human, Commander. The design does not match anything in our database. It is large, but a single vessel cannot possibly threaten our fleet." Vorath leaned back in his command chair and smiled. Humanity, the newest members of the galactic community, soft, weak, too gentle for the real universe. Everyone knew this. The humans talked about peace and cooperation. They smiled at everyone. They acted like the galaxy was a friendly place where species could trust each other. Fools. The galaxy was a hunting ground, and the strong took from the weak. That was the only law that mattered. "Open a channel to the convoy," Vorath ordered. "Let them know that help is not coming. Let them know that this human ship will die, and then we will take what we came for." Before his communications officer could comply, an incoming signal interrupted them. The human ship was hailing them. "Put it through," Vorath said. "I want to hear what these soft little humans have to say before we destroy them." A human female appeared on the view screen. She wore a dark uniform with minimal decoration. Her hair was gray at the temples, and her face carried the lines of someone who had seen much and forgotten nothing. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds. She did not look soft. She did not look weak. She looked at Vorath the way he had seen veteran hunters look at prey that did not yet know it was already dead. "Scythe vessels," she said. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Prometheus. You have entered human-protected space. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for boarding, or you will be destroyed." Vorath stared at her. Then he began to laugh. His bridge crew joined him. The sound filled the command deck. "Human," Vorath said when he could speak again, "do you know who I am? Do you know what the Scythe Collective has done to species far more powerful than yours? I have broken empires. I have made governments beg for mercy. And you threaten me with one ship?" 20 seconds, Vasquez replied. Her expression did not change. "You have courage. I will give you that. Perhaps I will keep you alive when we take your ship. The flesh markets pay well for humans with spirit." Vorath gestured to his weapons officer. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy that vessel. Then we claim our prize." The Scythe fleet moved forward. 32 ships, each one bristling with weapons. They had destroyed Concord escorts in minutes. They had never lost a battle against a single opponent. 10 seconds, Vasquez said. "Final warning." "Kill her," Vorath ordered. The first volley of weapons fire streaked toward the Prometheus. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, missiles, enough firepower to reduce a Concord dreadnought to burning debris. The human ship did not move. It did not fire back. It simply sat there as the weapons closed in. Then something impossible happened. A field of energy shimmered around the Prometheus. The weapons fire struck it and vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed. Simply erased as if it had never existed. Vorath felt something cold crawl up his spine. That was not possible. Shields did not work that way. No technology in the known galaxy could do what he had just witnessed. "All ships concentrate fire," he commanded. "Overwhelm their shields." The fleet opened up with everything they had. Beams of destruction poured toward the human vessel from every angle. The void lit up with the fury of 32 ships firing at once. The Prometheus did not even rock. The energy field held without a flicker. And then finally the human ship responded. It moved. Vorath had seen fast ships before. The Scythe Collective used interceptors that could cross a battlefield in seconds, but he had never seen anything move like the Prometheus. It was there, and then it was somewhere else, as if the space between those 2 points simply did not exist for it. A beam of white light lanced out from the human ship. It struck Vorath's lead interceptor, and the vessel simply came apart. Not exploded, not burned. It broke into pieces as if every bolt and weld had failed at the exact same moment. What? Vorath began. The Prometheus fired again, and again, and again. Each shot struck a different ship. Each shot was perfect. No wasted energy. No missed targets. The human gunners were not fighting. They were executing. Evasive action, Vorath screamed. All ships, break formation and evade. His fleet scattered like startled insects. It did not matter. The Prometheus seemed to know where each ship would be before it got there. It moved through the battlefield like a predator through a field of wheat, cutting down everything in its path. Vorath watched his sensor display as ship after ship went dark. 12 vessels destroyed in the first minute, then 15, then 20. Commander, we need to retreat, his first officer shouted. We cannot win this fight. How? Vorath stared at the human ship as it carved through another 3 vessels. How is this possible? They are humans. They have been in space for less than 200 years. We have been raiding for millennia. How do they have this? No one answered him. No one could. On the view screen, the Prometheus finished destroying its 27th target and turned toward Vorath's command ship. For a long moment, nothing happened. The human vessel simply hung there, watching him. Then Vasquez appeared on the screen again. You have lost 27 ships in less than 4 minutes, she said. You have 5 vessels remaining. I am going to let you go. Vorath blinked. What? You are going to take your surviving ships and leave this space. You are going to return to your masters and tell them exactly what happened here. You are going to tell them that the Scythe Collective attacked a vessel under human protection, and this was the result. Why? Vorath could not understand. He had spent his whole life taking from others. No one ever showed mercy. Mercy was weakness. Because dead men tell no stories, Vasquez replied, and I need you to deliver a message. The dark spaces of this galaxy are no longer safe for predators. Humanity is watching, and we do not look kindly on those who prey on the innocent. She leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to burn through the view screen. Run home, little pirate. Tell everyone you meet what you saw today. Tell them that the humans are not soft. Tell them that the humans are not weak. Tell them that if they try to hunt in our territory again, there will be no survivors to carry warnings. The communication ended. Vorath sat in his command chair for a long moment. Around him, his bridge crew was silent with shock. They had come here expecting easy prey. They had found something else entirely. Commander, his first officer whispered. Your orders? Vorath looked at the Prometheus. He thought about his 30 years of violence. He thought about all the people he had taken, all the lives he had destroyed, all the suffering he had caused without consequence. He thought about how small his ships looked compared to that human vessel. Retreat, he said. The word tasted like ash in his mouth. All ships, retreat, maximum speed. The 5 surviving Scythe vessels turned and fled. Behind them, the Prometheus watched them go. It did not pursue. It did not fire. It simply waited until they were gone. Then it turned back toward the convoy, powering down its weapons and extending its docking arms. On the diplomatic flagship, Ambassador Thesson stood at the view screen, with tears running down her face. She had just witnessed the impossible. A single human ship had destroyed 27 pirate vessels in less than 5 minutes. It had done so with technology that should not exist, with precision that should not be possible. And then it had shown mercy. The Scythe Collective had terrorized the Outer Rim for centuries. No one had ever defeated them so completely. No one had ever made them run, until now. The human woman with the child had joined the Sand at the view screen. She was crying too, but she was smiling through her tears. They came for us, she whispered. They actually came for us. A communication signal came through from the Prometheus. Captain Vasquez's voice was calm and professional, as if she had not just single-handedly dismantled a pirate fleet. Ambassador Thesson, the threat has been neutralized. We are preparing to dock and render assistance. Do you have wounded who need immediate medical attention? Thesson wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Yes, Captain, many wounded. And many questions? The wounded we can help with immediately. The questions will have to wait a bit longer. There was a hint of warmth in Vasquez's voice. But you will have your answers, Ambassador. I promise you that. The docking clamps connected. The airlocks cycled open. And for the first time in 40 years, the galaxy began to learn what humanity had truly become. The medical bay of the Prometheus was unlike anything Ambassador Thesson had ever seen. Clean white walls, soft lighting that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, equipment that hummed with quiet efficiency. Human doctors and nurses moved through the space with calm purpose, treating the wounded from the convoy without hesitation or complaint. Thassan sat on a medical bed while a young human woman cleaned and bandaged a cut on her forehead. She had not even realized she was injured until a human medic gently pointed it out. "You should rest, Ambassador," the young woman said. "You have been through a terrible ordeal." "I have questions," Thesson replied. "Many questions. Captain Vasquez will answer them. She asked me to tell you she will visit as soon as her duties allow." The medic smiled softly. "She always keeps her promises." Thesson looked around the medical bay. Malori, Vorthions, Talari, and a dozen other species lay in beds or sat in chairs while human medical staff treated them. None of the humans seemed surprised or uncomfortable working with alien biology. They moved with the confidence of people who had done this many times before. That should not have been possible. Humanity was a young species. They had limited contact with the wider galaxy. How could they know so much about treating alien injuries? A small hand tugged at Thesson's sleeve. She looked down to find the human boy from the convoy standing beside her bed. His mother was nearby, speaking quietly with a human counselor. "Excuse me," the boy said. "Are you the ambassador?" "I am," Thessan replied. "My mom says you saved us. She says you made the ship jump when the bad people were coming, and that is why we are alive." Thessan felt her throat tighten. "The humans saved us, Captain Vasquez and her ship. But you jumped first." The boy looked at her with the clear-eyed wisdom that only children seem to possess. "My mom says brave is doing something scary because it is the right thing. She says you were very brave." Before Thessan could respond, the doors to the medical bay opened and Captain Elena Vasquez walked in. She moved through the space with quiet authority, stopping to speak briefly with wounded passengers, checking on her medical staff, offering words of comfort where they were needed. Finally, she reached Thassan's bed. "Ambassador, I am glad to see you are being cared for. How do you feel?" "Confused," Thassan said honestly. "Grateful, terrified. I have served the Galactic Concord for 60 years. I thought I understood the universe. Now I realize I understand nothing." Vasquez nodded slowly. "I imagine you have questions. Hundreds. But I will start with the most important one." Thassan met the human captain's eyes. "What are you doing here? How long have you been in this sector? And how does humanity possess technology that makes the Galactic Concord look like children playing with sticks?" Vasquez was silent for a moment. Then she pulled up a chair and sat down beside Thassan's bed. "Would you like the simple answer or the complete one?" "The complete one. My people deserve to know the truth." "Very well." Vasquez folded her hands in her lap. "The Prometheus has been stationed in this sector for 38 years. We arrived 2 years after humanity made first contact with the galactic community." Thassan felt her eyes widen. "That is impossible. The Concord's records show that humanity had no significant space presence 40 years ago. You were still learning to build basic starships." "That is what we allowed the Concord to believe." Vasquez's expression was calm, almost sad. "We learned very quickly that the galaxy is not what it appears to be on the surface." "What do you mean?" "When we made first contact, we were hopeful. The Galactic Concord presented itself as a community of peaceful species working together for mutual benefit. Trade, culture, cooperation. It seemed wonderful." Vasquez looked away, toward the wounded passengers being treated around them. "Then we started paying attention. We noticed that certain species disappeared from the records. We noticed that first contact civilizations sometimes vanished without explanation. We noticed that the outer rim was full of slavers and pirates who operated openly, while the Concord did nothing to stop them." "The Concord cannot police every sector of space," Thassan said, but her voice lacked conviction. "No, but they could try. Instead, they look away. They pretend not to see. They make polite speeches about cooperation while entire species are enslaved or erased." Vasquez's voice hardened. We watched a refugee convoy get redirected into a black hole, Ambassador. 200,000 people. Gone. Because they were fleeing from a species with political connections, and helping them would have been inconvenient. Tassan felt sick. She had heard rumors of such things, whispers in diplomatic corridors. But she had always dismissed them as exaggerations. The Concorde was flawed, yes, but it was not evil. Was it? That was when we made our decision, Vasquez continued. We could play the game, smile and bow and climb the political ladder. Maybe in a few centuries we would have enough status to actually change things. Or we could take a different path. What path? We started building, in secret, in the places no one was supposed to go. Vasquez gestured around her. The Veyrath exclusion zone was declared forbidden 300 years ago because of a supposed weapons test that made the region unstable. That was a lie. The stellar event was natural and harmless. The Concorde quarantined this sector because it was convenient to have a place that no one would ever visit. And humanity discovered the truth. Within our first decade, we have been quietly mapping and occupying the forbidden zones ever since. Every exclusion zone, every quarantine sector, every region that the Concorde declared off limits. Vasquez smiled slightly. You would be amazed how much space no one ever checks. Tassan struggled to process what she was hearing. How many ships do you have? In this sector, 17, across the galaxy? Vasquez shrugged. Enough. But the technology, your weapons, your shields, nothing in the Concorde's records suggests humanity possesses anything like what I witnessed today. The Concorde knows what we want them to know. We discovered long ago that the best protection for a young species is to appear weak and harmless. No one pays attention to the newcomers who smile and bow and ask questions. Vasquez's eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. We asked a lot of questions, Ambassador, and we listened very carefully to the answers. You have been deceiving the entire galaxy for 40 years. We have been protecting ourselves and waiting. Waiting for what? Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the nearest viewport. Outside, the stars burned cold and eternal. The Concorde is not all bad, she said. There are good species, good people, beings who genuinely believe in peace and cooperation and helping others. But they are trapped in a system that rewards selfishness and punishes compassion. They stay silent because speaking up is dangerous. They look away because looking directly at evil means they would have to do something about it. She turned back to Tessin. We are waiting for the moment when that changes. We are waiting for the people who have been silent to realize they are not alone. We are waiting for the species who have been afraid to discover that there is someone standing with them. And today? Today was unexpected. You jumped into our space and we could not let you die. Not when you had chosen death over slavery, not when you had shown that kind of courage. Vasquez walked back to Tessin's bed. So we broke cover. We revealed ourselves. And now the galaxy will know that humanity is not what they believed. Tessin thought about everything she had witnessed. The battle, the mercy, the technology that should not exist. The secret fleet hiding in spaces everyone had been told were deadly. What happens now, she asked. Now you return to the Concorde with your passengers. You tell them what you saw. Some will be angry. Some will be frightened. Some will try to pretend it did not happen. Vasquez placed a hand on Tassan's shoulder. But some will hear you and feel hope. They will know that there is someone out there who does not accept the way things are. Someone who believes the strong should protect the weak, not prey upon them. You could be starting a war. Perhaps, but we could also be starting something else. Vasquez smiled and there was steel beneath the warmth. Change does not come from comfort, Ambassador. It comes from pressure, from moments when people must choose what they truly believe. Today, the galaxy received such a moment. She straightened and stepped back. Rest now. Your ship will be repaired within 6 hours. We will transfer the pirate prisoners to your custody, along with evidence of their crimes. What happens after that is up to you. Tessin watched the human captain walk away. She thought about the decision that waited for her. She could return to the Concorde and file a quiet report that would be buried in bureaucracy. She could pretend nothing had changed and go back to her comfortable life of diplomatic functions and careful compromises. Or she could tell the truth. Every part of it. Every terrible, wonderful, impossible detail. She thought about the boy who had called her brave. She thought about 200,000 refugees redirected into a black hole. She thought about 38 years of patient waiting in the darkness. And for the first time in 60 years, Ambassador Thassan began to believe that things could actually change. The repairs to the diplomatic flagship were proceeding faster than Thassan had thought possible. Human engineers moved through the ship with quiet efficiency, replacing damaged systems and reinforcing weakened structures. They worked without complaint, without rest, without asking for anything in return. One of them, a young man with dark skin and kind eyes, noticed Thassan watching from the observation deck. "Ambassador," he said with a respectful nod, "is there something you need?" "I am simply observing. Your people work very quickly. We have practice." The engineer smiled. "Ships find their way to us more often than you might think. Not everyone who enters the forbidden zones is trying to escape pirates. Sometimes they are just lost. Sometimes their navigation systems fail. Sometimes they are running from other things. And you help them all? We try." He turned back to his work, then paused. "May I ask you something, Ambassador?" "Of course. When you jumped into this zone, did you truly believe you would die?" Thassan considered the question. "Yes, every chart in the Concord's database showed this region as lethal. Every historical record confirmed it. I was certain we would be torn apart by gravitational forces or cooked by radiation within moments of arrival. But you jumped anyway. The alternative was worse." The engineer nodded slowly. "That is why Captain Vasquez decided to reveal us. She has watched many ships enter forbidden zones over the years. Most of them are accidents. But yours was deliberate. You chose possible death over certain slavery. She respects that kind of choice." He returned to his work, and Thassan continued her observation. Around her, humans moved through the ship like water flowing around stones. They asked no questions about species or politics, or the complicated relationships between the passengers. They simply helped. Later that day, Thassan requested permission to tour the Prometheus. To her surprise, Captain Vasquez agreed. "There are areas you cannot enter," Vasquez explained as they walked through the massive vessel. "Weapon systems, engineering core, certain classified sections. But you may see enough to understand what we have built." The ship was enormous. Thassan had toured Concorde dreadnoughts before, and they seemed like toys compared to this. Corridors stretched into the distance. Chambers rose multiple stories high. The hum of power beneath her feet was constant and reassuring. "How many crews serve aboard this vessel?" she asked. 3,000, plus approximately 800 support personnel." "Support personnel?" "Scientists, engineers, medical specialists, teachers." Vasquez smiled at Thassan's confusion. "Not all of our work involves fighting, Ambassador. We have been studying the galaxy for 40 years, learning, cataloging, trying to understand everything we can about the species and civilizations around us." They entered a vast library chamber. Shelves lined with data crystals rose to a ceiling so high that Thassan had to crane her neck to see it. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star charts and biological diagrams and cultural artifacts from 100 different worlds. "This is our archive," Vasquez said. "Everything we have learned since first contact. We have been collecting information from every species willing to share it, and from many who were not aware they were sharing. You have been spying on the galaxy. We have been learning about our neighbors. There is a difference." Vasquez walked to one of the displays and touched it gently. A star map appeared, showing the known galaxy with different colors marking different regions. "The Concorde claims to represent 73 species across 400 star systems. But our records show at least 200 additional species that have been erased from official histories. Conquered, absorbed, eliminated." "That cannot be true. I wish it were not." Vasquez changed the display. Images appeared. Worlds that had once held civilizations, cities turned to ruins, populations reduced to scattered remnants. The Hilari, the Vondram, the Kasath, the Malori Prime colony that your own government pretends never existed. All gone, all forgotten by official record. Thassan stared at the images. Some of the ruins looked ancient. Others looked disturbingly recent. She recognized the architectural style of the Mallory Prime colony. Her grandmother had told stories about relatives who had lived there before they simply stopped receiving communications. Why? She whispered. Why would the Concord allow this? Because stopping it would require effort, sacrifice. It would mean powerful species losing access to resources they had claimed for themselves. It would mean confronting uncomfortable truths. Vasquez turned off the display. The Concord is very good at looking away, at deciding that certain problems are not their concern, at choosing comfort over justice. And humanity is different? Humanity is angry. Vasquez's voice was soft but fierce. When we learned what had happened to the Hilari, our leaders wept. When we discovered the truth about the Kassith extinction, there were protests in every human city. Our people could not believe that such things were allowed to happen, that entire civilizations could be destroyed while the galaxy watched and did nothing. She led Thesson out of the archive and into a memorial hall. The walls were covered with names, thousands upon thousands of names, stretching from floor to ceiling. These are the victims we have confirmed, Vasquez said. Species that were destroyed while the Concord stood by. Individuals who died in flesh markets while trade ships passed overhead. Children who were taken from their families and sold. We remember them all. Thesson walked along the wall, reading names in scripts she recognized, and many she did not. She found Mallory names among them, names that might have belonged to her distant relatives. Names that had been lost to history but not forgotten by these humans who had never even met them. You carry our dead, she said. Why? Because someone should. Because if no one remembers them, then they are truly gone. Vasquez stood beside her. We could not save them. We were too late, or too weak, or too far away. But we can remember, and we can make sure that what happened to them never happens again. Is that why you hide in the forbidden zones? Why you build these ships? Why you wait? Partly. Vasquez guided Thesson to a viewport that looked out at the stars. We also wait because we know we cannot change the galaxy alone. One species, even with advanced technology, cannot force transformation on civilizations that have existed for millennia. We would become what we hate, conquerors, destroyers, the very thing we stand against. Then what is your plan? We protect those we can reach. We watch for moments when our intervention can make a difference, and we wait for others to join us. Vasquez turned to face Thesson directly. You asked what happens now. The answer is that you have a choice to make, Ambassador. What choice? You can return to the Concord and remain silent. You can continue your diplomatic career and pretend you never saw what you have seen today. Many would. Comfort is seductive, and courage is hard. Or you can speak the truth. You can tell the Concord what you witnessed here. You can force them to acknowledge that humanity is not what they believed, and that there are beings in the galaxy who will not accept the way things are. Vasquez's eyes were steady. You can become a voice for change. That could end my career. It could end my life. Yes, change is never safe. Vasquez placed a hand on Thesson's shoulder. But some things are worth the risk. Some truths are too important to stay hidden. You jumped into a forbidden zone rather than surrender to slavers, Ambassador. I do not think you are someone who chooses safety over what is right. Thesson looked at the memorial wall. All those names, all those lost lives, all those stories that would never be told because no one had been willing to speak up. She thought about her grandmother's relatives on Mallory Prime and about the communications that had stopped arriving, about the questions that were never answered because asking them was too uncomfortable. She thought about 2,000 passengers on a crippled ship, choosing death over chains. I will speak, she said. I will tell them everything. Vasquez smiled. It was the smile of someone who had waited a very long time to hear those words. Then perhaps, Ambassador, change begins today. They stood together in silence, watching the stars burn against the eternal darkness. Somewhere out there, Thesson knew, other human ships waited in other forbidden zones. Patient, watchful, ready to help whoever needed them. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had not been silent by accident. They had been waiting for someone to stand with them. The diplomatic flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Concord Central. Ambassador Thesson stood on the bridge, watching the massive space station grow larger in the view screen. She had seen it 1,000 times before. Today it looked different. Smaller somehow, less impressive than she remembered. Beside her, Captain Marath of the convoy stood at attention. He had been quiet since they left the exclusion zone. They all had been. 2,000 passengers carrying a secret that could reshape the galaxy. Ambassador, Morath said, the docking authority is requesting our identification codes. They want to know why we are 6 days late. Tell them we encountered difficulties. Thassan straightened her ceremonial robes. Tell them I will provide a full report to the High Council in person. The flagship docked without incident. Thassan walked down the boarding ramp to find a delegation of Concord officials waiting for her. They wore expressions of practiced concern. Ambassador Thesson, the lead official said, we received reports of a pirate attack on your convoy. We are relieved to see you survived. The Concord has already begun preparing a response. We intend to file a formal complaint with the regional authority. A formal complaint. Thesson felt something cold settle in her chest. 2,000 lives had nearly been lost. 4 escort ships had been destroyed, and the Concord's response was a formal complaint. Yes, these incidents are taken very seriously. The official gestured toward awaiting transport. Please, Ambassador, the High Council is eager to hear your report. Thassan climbed into the transport without speaking. Through the window, she watched Concord Central pass by. Gleaming towers, elegant gardens, beautiful architecture that had taken centuries to build. All of it maintained by a civilization that filed formal complaints while slavers dragged innocent people to their deaths. The High Council chamber was exactly as she remembered it. 12 representatives from the founding species sat in a semicircle, their seats raised above the speaking floor. Above them, gallery seats held observers from dozens of other species. Everything was designed to project power and authority. Thassan walked to the center of the floor and waited for the council to acknowledge her. High Counselor Verath, a Korath with scales that shimmered in the artificial light, leaned forward. Ambassador Thassan, we understand you have had a difficult journey. Please tell us what happened. Thassan took a deep breath. She thought about Captain Vasquez, about the memorial wall covered with names, about the choice that had brought her to this moment. High Counselor, my convoy was attacked by 32 Scythe collective vessels 6 days ago. Our escorts were destroyed. Our flagship was crippled. We were about to be taken as slaves. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. The council members exchanged glances. Terrible, Verath said. Simply terrible. Rest assured the Concord will take appropriate action. I have not finished. Thesson's voice was steady. In desperation, we jumped into the Verath exclusion zone. We expected to die. Instead, we found something else entirely. The murmurs died. The chamber fell silent. The exclusion zone is not dangerous. It never was. The stellar event 3 centuries ago was natural and harmless. The Concord has been lying about this region for 300 years. Now the murmurs became shouts. Council members leaned forward with expressions of disbelief. Gallery observers rose from their seats. Ambassador, Verath said, his voice sharp, these are serious accusations. What evidence do you have? I have sensor records from my flagship showing stable space with no radiation or gravitational anomalies. I have the testimony of 2,000 witnesses, and I have this. Thassan activated her personal display and projected the image of the Prometheus onto the chamber's central screen. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, cries of shock. One council member actually stood up from her seat. That is a human battleship, Thesson said. It has been stationed in the exclusion zone for 38 years. There are 16 more human vessels in that sector alone. Across the galaxy, in every forbidden zone and quarantine region, humanity has been building a secret fleet. Impossible, Verath snarled. Humanity is a minor species. They joined the Concord only 40 years ago. They have no capability to build such vessels. That is what they wanted us to believe. Thesson let her words hang in the air. Humanity has been deceiving the Concord since first contact. They have been watching us, learning about us, preparing for the moment when they would reveal themselves. This is a threat, Another council member, a Valari with trembling antennae, pointed at the image. They have been building weapons in secret. They mean to attack us. No, Tessin shook her head. They have been waiting. Protecting the spaces no one else would protect. Helping those who had no one else to help them. She told them everything. The battle against the Scythe fleet, the mercy shown to the surviving pirates, the memorial wall covered with names the Concord had forgotten, the refugee convoy redirected into a black hole, the species erased from history while the galaxy watched and did nothing. The chamber erupted. Council members shouted at each other. Gallery observers screamed accusations and denials. Security personnel moved to control the chaos. Through it all, Thassan stood calm and still. Finally, Vareth restored order. His scales had darkened with anger. Ambassador, you are making extremely dangerous claims. You are accusing the Concord itself of complicity in atrocities. I am telling you what I saw, what I learned, what humanity has been documenting for 40 years. Thassan met his eyes without flinching. I am telling you that the galaxy is not what we pretend it is, that terrible things happen in the spaces between stars, that the Concord has chosen to look away because confronting the truth would be inconvenient. And what do you expect us to do with this information? I expect you to make a choice. Thassan looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who held the power to change everything. You can dismiss my report. You can bury it in bureaucracy. You can pretend nothing has changed and go back to your comfortable lives of careful compromises and formal complaints, she paused. Or you can acknowledge the truth. You can begin the difficult work of actual change. You can decide that the strong should protect the weak, not prey upon them. You speak as if we have been neglecting our duties, Vareth said coldly. I speak as someone who nearly died because the Concord could not be bothered to patrol the trade routes. As someone who watched pirates operate openly because no one wanted to confront them. As someone who learned that entire civilizations have been destroyed while the Concord filed formal complaints. Thassan's voice rose. I speak as someone who finally understands why humanity has been hiding in the dark, waiting for the moment when this galaxy would be ready to hear the truth. She deactivated her display. The image of the Prometheus faded. Humanity has revealed itself because of what we did. We jumped into forbidden space rather than surrender to slavery. We chose death over chains. They thought that choice deserved to be rewarded. She turned to leave. I hope you prove them right. Thassan walked out of the chamber without looking back. Behind her, the shouting continued. Arguments, accusations. The beginning of a debate that would reshape galactic politics for generations. She did not know what would happen next. Perhaps the Concord would reform itself. Perhaps it would collapse. Perhaps there would be conflict before there was peace. Change was never simple, and courage was never safe. But she had spoken. She had told the truth. She had become a voice for those who had been silenced. 3 months later, a Concord patrol responded to a distress call from a colony under siege by slavers. They arrived expecting a difficult battle. Instead, they found the situation already resolved. The slavers were in custody. The colonists were safe. The only evidence of intervention was a single message buoy, broadcasting on repeat. Humanity was here. You are not alone. The patrol commander, a young Mallory named Thassan's nephew, smiled as he read the message. Around him, his crew exchanged glances of hope. The galaxy was changing. Not quickly, not easily, but changing. In the forbidden zones, human ships maintained their quiet watch. They did not seek recognition. They did not demand gratitude. They simply waited for the next moment when someone needed help and no one else was coming. Because humanity had decided that being new did not mean being silent. Being small did not mean being powerless. And the measure of a species was not how it treated those above it, but how it answered those crying out from below. The stage had been set. The players had taken their positions, and in the darkness between stars, a new story was beginning. It was a story about courage, about mercy, about choosing to stand when standing was dangerous. It was a story about humanity, and it was only just beginning.